Right, so yesterday Israel, in its pursuit of Hamas, they say, have bombed a refugee camp in northern Gaza. Yep, refugee camp. Hundreds dead, allegedly, because a Hamas commander was hiding there, apparently, in complete contravention of the Geneva Convention, specifically Article 51, which covers the protections of a civilian population. Israel have admitted to doing this. It'd be pretty hard to excuse their actions given the size of the crater left behind right in the middle of where that refugee camp was. 400 innocent Palestinians have been killed by Israel, numbers are that have been reported, who felt this level of force to bring down one person was justified because they had told these people to go south. Anyone justifying Israeli atrocity on this scale has got to be truly depraved. To target something like a refugee camp, truly depraved. So sadly enter both the Tories and Labour, who have both defended this. A vote for either of these pro-Israeli parties is a vote for more innocent blood to be spilled. We need to oppose this. It's basic humanity to say we do not support this, surely. We don't seem to have such people in power or getting ready for it. Right, so last time Israel were implicated in targeting civilians, that was the Al-Ali Baptist Church. Their defenders said it couldn't be Israel at the time because there was no big hole in the ground where Israel's superior weaponry would have hit. Well, here's a big hole in the ground, and this is a refugee camp, so defend this one then. 400 dead, according to Médecins Sans Frontières. They're reporting that large numbers of wounded people have also been moved to the Al-Shifa hospital, including young children with deep wounds and severe burns, many having lost their parents and being sole survivors. That there have been reports of entire families having been wiped out in this attack. One aid worker pulled a newborn baby from its dead mother's arms. Israel would have you believe that targeting such a refugee camp is entirely justified, though. US news channel CNN have been doing a BBC, frankly, bending over backwards for Israel. But they weren't quite prepared for Israel to admit what they'd done here on live TV, as Israeli Defence Force spokesman Lieutenant Colonel Richard Hecht, a man who was born near Glasgow, incidentally, so giving off very strong settler vibes here, confirmed what they'd done. When asked by CNN's Wolf Blitzer if Israel in fact did go ahead and drop bombs on Jabalia, the name of this refugee camp, knowingly on innocent civilians to get to this Hamas commander allegedly hiding there, Hecht replied, "That's not what you're hearing. We again focused on this commander. You'll get more data on who this man was. They killed many Israelis. We're doing everything we can. It's a very complicated battle space. There could be infrastructure there. There could be tunnels there, and we're still looking into that." That wasn't an answer to his question. So Blitzer asked again, "But you know there are a lot of refugees, a lot of men, women and children in that refugee camp as well, right? It is a refugee camp. You would imagine most of the people there would be innocent." Hecht was shaking his head as Blitzer was finishing what he was saying. He answered, "This is the tragedy of war, Wolf. I mean, we, as you know, have been saying for days, move south. Civilians that are not involved with Hamas, please move south." Still not got the answer he wanted, though, so Blitzer pushed again. "I'm just trying to get a little bit more information," he said. "You knew there were civilians there. You knew there were refugees, all sorts of refugees, but you decided to drop a bomb on that refugee camp attempting to kill that Hamas commander. By the way, was he killed?" This time he got an answer, though in no way the one he expected. Hecht replied by saying, "Yes, we know he was killed. About the civilians there, we're doing everything we can to minimise. I'll say it again, sadly they are hiding amongst them the civilian population, and again we're doing this stage by stage, and we're going to go after every one of these terrorists who was involved in that heinous attack on the 7th of October. CNN suddenly experienced technical issues, which weren't apparent on screen. The look on Blitzer's face appeared to be that he was being told something into his earpiece to end the interview. After all, they were backing Israel, and one of their commanders had just attempted to justify killing hundreds of refugees to get one man. Hecht had admitted to committing a war crime on live TV. You don't target innocent civilians, ever. It's there in Article 51 of the Geneva Convention, which protects civilian populations. And the relevant section of this convention here is what it says about indiscriminate attacks, which are defined in Article 51 as those not directed at a specific military objective, those which employ a method or means of combat which cannot be limited as required, and consequently are of a nature to strike military objectives and civilians or civilian objects without distinction, dropping a bomb on a refugee camp to take out one man seems to meet the terms of an indiscriminate attack to me then. Sadly, our leaders and their parties disagree. The Tories wheeled out their go-to sycophant Oliver Dowden, who spoke to Kay Burley on Sky News this morning, who put to him, the IDF have admitted bombing Jabalia refugee camp with civilian casualties. Is that still within international law as far as the British government is concerned? Well, we know what the Geneva Convention says, so what say you, Tory boy? Dowden came back with, well, this is the reality of the conflict with an organisation like Hamas. Hamas is a terrorist organisation that has murdered in cold blood over 1,000 innocent Israeli men, women and children, and now seeks to hide amongst the civilian population. This is a very difficult conflict. We continue to urge the Israeli government to abide by international law. I believe the Israeli government is continuing to do so. So according to this dimwit, who is actually the Deputy Prime Minister, if Sunak takes a sickie, he's running the country, folks, who says that Israel has the right to bomb innocent Palestinian men, women and children, and is acting within international law by doing so, in retaliation for Hamas killing innocent Israeli men, women and children. That's not just supporting indiscriminate attack as laid out in the Geneva Convention, but it's tacitly supporting the apartheid regime because some lives, clearly by inference, by Dowden's own words, are worth more than others. Why should we be surprised by a government whose leaders suck up to Netanyahu to avoid some tricky by-elections, telling him he hopes he wins, remains resolutely on Israel's side even after they commit atrocity, and it just greenlit Israel to do it again? Blood on their hands. Thanks very much, Sunak. But what about Labour then? Well, this attack came just 2 hours after Keir Starmer's disgusting speech yesterday, ruling out ceasefires entirely. 400 dead innocent Palestinians proved you wrong yet again, Keith, as usual, as always, because Starmer never gets these calls right. But then he's pinned his leadership and his path to power on propping up and supporting the Israeli state and their government, one of the most hardline right-wing governments on the planet. Well, it wasn't Starmer confirming that Labour remained in lockstep with the Tories on this issue this morning. It was David Lammy, the wannabe next Foreign Secretary, on Radio 4's Today programme. He said, "It's clear to me that it's wrong to bomb a refugee camp, but clearly, if there is a military objective, it can be legally justifiable. It's for Israel to explain its actions." What an absolute moron. Legally justified. Lammy is literally to politics what a handbrake is to a canoe. The Geneva Conventions, again, I'll come back to them, and all the articles within it are international law. Article 51 is explicit in what is not permitted in the form of indiscriminate attacks, which is precisely what this was. There is no exception. You want to be Foreign Secretary? Learn the law. Article 51 literally concerns civilians during conflict. It is illegal. It is a war crime, without exception. People need dragging to The Hague for this, and our government and those who wish to form one should be saying that. Should be saying as much, not falling over themselves to try and justify mass murder of innocent people. In what way is Israel any better than Hamas in this? As for Starmer himself, you will not believe what he's done today. He's only gone and had the nerve, in light of all of this, in light of that speech yesterday, to put out a short video on Islamophobia Awareness Month and how he stands with the Muslim communities today. Have you apologised to the Islamic Centre you weaponised in South Wales the other week yet? 400, most certainly majority Muslim people, lost their lives yesterday just after you'd finished standing in Chatham House, itself dubiously funded, saying how you were on the side of the bombers. Every time I think Starmer can't make me even more sick and by him, he goes one step further. Amoral, utterly self-serving, driven by his own wants and desires and his lust for power, a vote for him is exactly the same as a vote for the Tories. It's a vote for more innocent blood on British hands. I know my hands will not be tainted by this complicity when I next go to vote. How about you? Now, this was the natural conclusion to this video, but as I was finishing up, news has broken that the Jabalia refugee camp has just been bombed for a second time. I thought that Scottish IDF bloke said they killed the Hamas commander, so why have they bombed refugees again? Another 50 people are dead in that refugee camp now. Another 150 are wounded. And because Israel is still cutting off fuel supplies, ambulances are running out. I have no words for this anymore. I've run out. Motor mouth like me, I can't think of one to describe this, but I know one thing. My disgust at those still supporting this regime grows daily. Thanks for watching. I hope you found this video useful. Please like, share and subscribe if you did. More content out daily. Please do have your say on these events and what our apparent leaders are saying, and be part of the conversation too. Meanwhile, here's a video recommendation where Netanyahu's plans for Gaza appear to have been leaked and have now been authenticated. So really, does he care whether Palestinians live or die as long as they get out of Gaza? Well, what do his latest actions make it look like? I'll hopefully see you on the next vid. Cheers, folks.